BizTV 24 Political Desk brings to you Top 10 Longest Serving African Presidents and what you need to know about them. The African continent has had a number of leaders who have spent decades in office despite claims to democracy. These leaders have been in power for extended periods due to a combination of factors, including constitutional changes, electoral fraud, and the suppression of political opposition, despite the length of their tenure. Some of these leaders have been criticized for human rights abuses, corruption, and poor governance. Below is a list of top African current heads of state, including royalty, arranged in order of length of time they have held such positions continuously.
Don't forget to like and share this video. Watch to the end. Number 1 and number 2 will surprise you, how long they have been in power and how old they are.
Number 10. Paul Kagame, 67-year-old. President of Rwanda, 23 years in power. Kagame was born on October 23, 1957, the youngest of 6 children, in Tambwe, Rwanda, a village located in what is now the southern province of Rwanda. His father, Deogratias Rudagambwa, was a member of the Tutsi ethnic group, from which the royal family had been derived since the 18th century or earlier. A member of the Bega clan, Deogratias Rudagambwa had family ties to King Mutara III, but he pursued an independent business career rather than maintain a close connection to the royal court. Kagame's mother, Asteria Bisinda, descended from the family of the last Rwandan queen, Rosalie Gicanda, that is from the Hebra branch of the royal Nyaginya clan. At the time of Kagame's birth, Rwanda was a United Nations Trust territory which had been ruled, in various forms, by Belgium since 1916 under a mandate to oversee eventual independence. Rwandans were made up of 3 distinct groups. The minority Tutsi were the traditional ruling class, and the Belgian colonialists had long promoted Tutsi supremacy, while the majority Hutu were agriculturalists. The third group, the Twa, were a forest-dwelling pygmy people descended from Rwanda's earliest inhabitants, who formed less than 1% of the population. Kagame is a Rwandan politician and former military officer who has been the 4th president of Rwanda since 2000. He was previously a commander of the Rwandan Patriotic Front, RPF, a rebel armed force which invaded Rwanda in 1990. The RPF was one of the parties of the conflict during the Rwandan Civil War and the armed force which ended the Rwandan genocide. He was considered Rwanda's de facto leader when he was vice president and minister of defense under President Pastor Bizimungu from 1994 to 2000, after which the vice presidential post was abolished. Paul Kagame, who assumed office in 2000, is the 4th and current president of Rwanda, and the 10th longest-serving president in Africa. Kagame had been de facto leader since 1994, but focused more on military, foreign affairs and the country's security than day-to-day governance. He only went after the top job when the then-President Bizimungu resigned. Kagame was sworn in as president in April 2000. Number 9. Mohammed VI. 61 years old, King of Morocco, 24 years in power. Mohammed VI was born on August 21, 1963 and was the second child and first son of Hassan II and his wife, Lala Latifa. As their eldest son, Mohammed became heir apparent from birth. He is King of Morocco. A member of the Alawi dynasty, he acceded to the throne on July 23, 1999, upon the death of his father, King Hassan II. Mohammed has vast business holdings across several economic sectors in Morocco. His net worth has been estimated at between $2.1 billion and over $8.2 billion. In 2015, Forbes named him the richest king in Africa and the 5th wealthiest monarch in the world. Upon ascending to the throne, Mohammed initially introduced a number of reforms and changed the family code, Mutawana, granting women more power. Leaked diplomatic cables from WikiLeaks in 2010 led to allegations of corruption in the court of Mohammed, implicating him and his closest advisors. In 2011, protests considered part of the wider Arab Spring occurred against alleged government corruption. In response, Mohammed enacted several reforms and introduced a new constitution. These reforms were passed by a public referendum on July 1, 2011. Muhammad is the 9th longest-serving ruler in Africa and is also regarded by the Royal Islamic Strategic Studies Center as the 7th most influential Muslim in the world in 2022. Number 8. Ismail Omar Guelleh. 78 years old, President of Djibouti, 24 years in power. Guelleh was born November 27, 1946 in Dire Dawa, Ethiopia, into the politically powerful Mamasan subclan of the Sees Dar clan of the Somali ethnic group. The father of Ismail Omar Guelleh, son of Guelleh Badal, is Omar Guelleh, one of the first native teachers in the 1930s before working, following his father's path, on behalf of the Franco-Ethiopian Railway Company, CFE, which built the line connecting Djibouti to Addis Ababa and whose head office was in Dire Dawa. When Guelleh was younger he attended a traditional Islamic school. In 1960, Guelleh migrated to Djibouti before finishing high school. In 1964, at the age of 18, Ismail Omar Guelleh began working in the general information of the French territory of the Afars and the Isas, because he spoke Amharic, Somali, Arabic, French, Italian and English. In 1975, he was suspended from his duties because he was suspected of transmitting information to the independence movement. He then became involved in the African People's League for Independence, LPAI, chaired by Hassan Gaold Abtadan, who campaigns for independence. Guelleh was elected into the LPAI's Central Committee in 1983 and subsequently became the director of a cultural commission in Paris. In 1987, he became a member of the party leadership. After Djibouti became independent, he became head of the secret police and chief of the cabinet in the government of his uncle Hassan Gaold Abtadan, for whom he also served as chief of staff for more than 2 decades. He received training from the Somali National Security Service and then from the French Secret Service, and was intended to become his uncle's successor. He became president of Djibouti in 1999. Ismail Omar Guelleh is the current president of Djibouti. He has been in office since 1999, making him one of the longest-serving rulers in Africa. He is often referred to by his initials, IOG. Guelleh was first elected as president in 1999 as the hand-picked successor to his uncle, Hassan Gaold Abtadan, who had ruled Djibouti since independence in 1977. Guelleh was re-elected in 2005, 2011, 2016 and in 2021. The elections were largely boycotted by the opposition amid complaints over widespread irregularities. Guelleh has been characterized as a dictator, and his rule has been criticized by human rights groups and governments, such as the United States. He is, at the international level, a close ally of France. He was awarded the Padma Vibhushan, India's second-highest civilian award, on January 25, 2019 for his role in the safe evacuation of Indian citizens from Yemen. Number 7. Letsie III. King of Lesotho, 61 years old, 27 years in power. Letsie III was born Siso Bareng on July 17, 1963 at the Scott Hospital in Marija, a town south of the capital Maseru. He was educated in the United Kingdom at Ampleforth College. From there, he went on to study at the National University of Lesotho, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in law. He then went on to study at the University of Bristol, Diploma in English Legal Studies, 1986, Wolfson College, Cambridge, Development Studies, 1989, and Y College, Agricultural Economics. He completed his studies in 1989, when he returned to Lesotho. He was installed as the principal chief of Matsieng on December 16, 1989. His coronation took place on October 31, 1997 at Setsoto Stadium. King Charles III, then the Prince of Wales, attended the ceremony. On December 1, 2016, in Rome, King Letsie III was appointed as the Food and Agriculture Organization's newest special ambassador for nutrition by the organization's Director General, José Graziano da Silva. He is King of Lesotho. He succeeded his father, Moshoeshoe II, who was forced into exile in 1990. His father was briefly restored in 1995 but died in a car crash in early 1996, and Letsie became king again. As a constitutional monarch, most of King Letsie's duties as monarch of Lesotho are ceremonial. In 2000, he declared HIV/AIDS in Lesotho to be a natural disaster, prompting immediate national and international response to the epidemic. Number 6. Isaias Afwerki. 78-year-old, President of Eritrea. 30 years in power. Isaias Afwerki was born on February 2, 1946 in the Aba Shural district of Asmara, Eritrea. His father, whose native village was Salet, just outside of Asmara, was a minor functionary in the state tobacco monopoly. His mother was descended from Tigrayan immigrants from the Enderta area. Afwerki is an Eritrean politician and partisan who has been the president of Eritrea since shortly after he led the Eritrean People's Liberation Front, EPLF, to victory in May 24, 1991, ending the 30-year-old war for independence from Ethiopia. In addition to being president, Isaias has been the chairman of Eritrea's sole legal political party, the People's Front for Democracy and Justice, PFDJ. As Eritrea has never had a functioning constitution, no elections, no legislature and no published budget, Isaias has been the sole power in the country, controlling its judiciary and military. Hence, scholars and historians have long considered him to be a dictator, described his regime as totalitarian, by way of forced conscription. The United Nations and Amnesty International cited him for human rights violations. In 2022, Reporters Without Borders ranked Eritrea, under the government of Isaias, last out of 180 countries in its Press Freedom Index. In 2023 Eritrea ranked 174th out of 180 countries on the Press Freedom Index. Isaias Afwerki is the first president of Eritrea. The Eritrean leader Isaias Afwerki has been in charge since the country got its independence from Ethiopia in April 1993. He is the sixth longest-serving president in Africa. These leaders that does not want to leave office, are they actually imperialist? Are they dictators as claimed? Please let us know in the comments section. Number 5. King Mswati III. 56 years old, head of Swaziland, 37 years in power. Mswati III is Ngwenyama, king of Eswatini, formerly Swaziland, and head of the Swazi royal family. Mswati III, born Makositive, on April 19, 1968 at Raleigh Fitkin Memorial Hospital, Manzini, the son of Sobhuza II, who had 70 wives during his reign of 82 years, and the only child of Mfambai Twala, also known as Inkosikati Lafwala, one of Sobhuza's younger wives. He was born 4 months before Eswatini attained independence from the United Kingdom. When he and his mother were discharged from the hospital, they went to live at one of Sobhuza's residences, at Gini, near the Masandwini royal residence. His birth name was Makositive, lit. Kings of Nations, in reference to the heads of state who visited Eswatini that year for the independence celebrations, and his half-siblings included Mantfambi, a future queen of the South African Zulus. He was born in Manzini in the Protectorate of Swaziland to King Sobhuza II and one of his younger wives, Mfambai Twala. He was crowned as Mswati III, Ngwenyama and King of Swaziland, on April 25, 1986 at the age of 18, thus becoming the youngest ruling monarch in the world at that time. With unrestricted political power and able to rule by decree, Mswati III, together with his mother, Mfambai Twala, now Queen Mother, Mluvukati, is the last remaining absolute monarch in Africa and one of the only 12 remaining absolute national or subnational monarchs in the world. Under the Constitution, the King is the Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Force and Commissioner-in-Chief of Police and Correctional Services, and Mswati III exercises ultimate authority over all branches of the national government and effectively controls local governance through his influence over traditional chiefs. Mswati III is known for his practice of polygamy, although at least 2 wives are appointed by the state, and currently has 15 wives. Formerly named Swaziland, in 2018 Mswati III renamed the country Eswatini, formerly the Kingdom of Eswatini, by decree. Under his reign, political dissent and civic and labor activism are subject to harsh punishment under sedition and other laws. Political parties have been banned in Eswatini since 1973 when a state of emergency was declared that has continued ever since. Pro-democracy protests from 2021 onwards have been violently dispersed and political activists have been arrested, subjected to torture and other ill treatment, and their homes were raided by security forces. The government exercises total control over the broadcast media, including the only privately owned TV channel, which belongs to the royal family. Almost all media outlets are controlled, directly or indirectly, by Mswati III. Mswati III has also been accused of fiscal mismanagement and having a lavish lifestyle in sharp contrast to the lives of most Emaswazi people. In 2022, an estimated 32% of the population lived below the $2.15 per day international poverty line, measured by price purchasing parity, PPP, in 2017, while 55% of the population was under the lower middle-income country poverty line of $3.65 per day.
Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like and share this video.
Number 4. Yoweri Museveni. 80 years old, President of Uganda, 37 years in power. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni Tibuhaburwa, born September 15, 1944, was estimated to be born on September 15, 1944 to parents Mzee Amos Kaguta, 1916–2013, a cattle keeper, and Esteri Kokondeka Nganzi, 1918–2001, in Rukungiri. He is an ethnic Hema of the Kingdom of Mpororo, now part of Ankole. According to Julius Nyerere, Museveni's father, Amos Kaguta, was a soldier in the King's African Rifles 7th Battalion during World War II. Yoweri was born, relatives used to say, his father was a Mu7, meaning, in the 7th. This is how he obtained the name Museveni. Museveni is a Ugandan politician, military officer and revolutionary who has been the 9th president of Uganda since 1986. His government is considered autocratic. After Museveni lost the election of 1980, he started the Ugandan Bush War, which led to the removal of Milton Obote. Museveni's rule has been described by scholars as competitive authoritarianism, or illiberal democracy. The press has been under the authority of government. None of the Ugandan elections since 1986 have been found to be free and transparent. Museveni's presidency has been characterized by an upsurge in anti-gay legislation and activity, involvement in African Great Lakes conflicts such as the First Congo War and Rwandan Civil War, the Lord's Resistance Army insurgency in northern Uganda and subsequent humanitarian emergency, and numerous constitutional amendments like the scrapping of presidential term and age limits in 2005 and 2017, respectively. Yoweri Museveni has been the president of Uganda since 1986, making him the fourth longest-serving African president. He took office in January 1986 after winning the war that toppled Ugandan presidents Milton Obote and Idi Amin. Records indicate that none of the Ugandan elections have been found to be free and transparent since Museveni took over.
Some Africans refer to these leaders as ancient and modern, implying that they ruled in the old generation and they still want to rule in this modern era against the wish of greater number of their citizens. Could this be true? Tell us what you think in the comment section.
Number 3. Denis Sassou Nguesso. 81 years old, President the Republic of Congo, 39 years in power. Denis Sassou Nguesso, born November 23, 1943 in Idu in the Oyo district in northern Congo in 1943. His parents are Julien Nguesso and Emilienne Mabara. Nguesso was the youngest child in the family. His father was a notable hunter chief in Idu. He received primary education in Fort Rousse, now Owando. He studied in Dalhousie in Normal College between 1956 and 1960. A member of the Mbochi tribe, Sassou Nguesso. Nguesso is a Congolese politician and former military officer who became president of the Republic of the Congo in 1997. He served a previous term as president from 1979 to 1992. During his first period as president, he headed the Congolese Party of Labour, PCT, for 12 years. He introduced multi-party politics in 1990, but was stripped of executive powers by the 1991 National Conference, remaining in office as a ceremonial head of state. He stood as a candidate in the 1992 presidential election but placed third. Sassou Nguesso was an opposition leader for 5 years before returning to power during the Second Republic of the Congo Civil War, in which his rebel forces ousted President Pascal Lissouba. Following a transitional period, he won the 2002 presidential election, which involved low opposition participation. He was re-elected in the 2009 presidential election. The introduction of a new constitution, passed by referendum in 2015 amidst calls for boycott then a dismissal of results by opposition leaders, enabled Sassou Nguesso to stand for another term. He was re-elected in the 2016 presidential election with a majority in the first round. The Republic of the Congo's President Denis Sassou Nguesso has spent 34 years in office, but not in one go. He first served from 1979 to 1992 and returned in 1997 at the end of a civil war. He is the third longest-serving president in Africa. Number 2. Paul Biya. 91 years old, the President of Cameroon, 41 years in power. Paul Biya, born Paul Barthélemy Biya A. Bimvondo, February 13, 1933 in the village of Mbomika in what is now the south region of Cameroon. He studied at the Lycée General Leclerc, Yaoundé, and in France at the Lycée Louis le Grand, Paris, going on to the Institut de Hautes Études d'Outre-mer, where he graduated in 1961 with a higher education diploma in public law. He is a Cameroonian politician who has been the second president of Cameroon since November 6, 1982. Having previously been the Prime Minister of Cameroon from 1975 to 1982. He is the second longest ruling president in Africa, the longest consecutively serving current non-royal national leader in the world and the oldest head of state in the world. Biya introduced political reforms within the context of a one-party system in the 1980s, later accepting the introduction of multi-party politics in the early 1990s under serious pressure. He won the contentious 1992 presidential election with 40% of the plural, single-ballot vote and was re-elected by large margins in 1997, 2004, 2011, and 2018. Opposition politicians and Western governments have alleged voting irregularities and fraud on each of these occasions. Many independent sources have provided evidence that he did not win the elections in 1992 and that subsequent elections suffered from rampant fraud. His regime is supported by France, one of the former colonial powers in Cameroon, which supplies it with weapons, aids, and trains its military forces. Number 1. Teodoro Obiang. 82 years, the President of Equatorial Guinea, 44 years in power. Born June 5, 1942, from a family of the Asangui ethnic clan, he was born in the town of Akoakan, Mongomo District, Ouilnzas Province, belonging to the colony of Spanish Guinea, on the current border with Gabon, within the continental Equatorial Guinea. Son of the Gabonese Santiago Nguema Inim Obama and Maria Umbasogo Engui, Obiang was the third of 10 brothers, among whom are also the National Security Delegate Armengol Ondo Nguema and former National Defense Minister Antonio Mba Nguema. Obiang's parents emigrated from Gabon to avoid paying capitation taxes and take advantage of the good economic situation in Spanish Guinea. After the death of Maria Umbasogo Engui, Obiang and his brothers were raised by his father and his new wife Carmen Mcubira. After graduating from military school, Obiang held multiple positions under the presidency of his uncle, Francisco Macias Nguema, including director of the notorious Black Beach Prison. He ousted Macias in a military coup in 1979 and took control of the country as president and chairman of the Supreme Military Council junta. After the country's nominal return to civilian rule in 1982, he founded the Democratic Party of Equatorial Guinea, PDGE, in 1987, which was the country's sole legal party until 1992. He has overseen Equatorial Guinea's emergence as an important oil producer, beginning in the 1990s. Obiang was chairperson of the African Union from 2011 to 2012. The longest-serving president in Africa as of today. He is the current and second president of Equatorial Guinea, a position he has held since August 1979. He is the longest-serving president not just in Africa but of any country ever.
Thank you for watching. Share your views on what you think on the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Turn on the notification bell to get our latest videos.
Biz TV 24. Business from a different perspective.